breasts are like ginormous. Is that correct?
Big, yeah, big. That's the way I like them.
Okay, you know, I don't like women having boobs. I just want them to be flat. Like when it comes to design, I think that distracts the whole line. So that's a challenge for me to work with big boobs, I think.
She's got a great curve to her. So I want to use the, you know what I mean? Like I like the idea of being able to see the curve.
Stupid little things. And I just really felt like working with the model again and having a non-speaking person just do their jobs and have it done, you know, not so much talking back.
I just want to say I'm fighting for my life here. I would love to make something that you would absolutely love, but it's for the purpose of the show.
Oh, wow.
People are kind of freaking out because real women are not models. People are like, oh my God, like big boobs, big hips, you know, just big all over. So it's a little nerve-wracking.
Time is up. You need to be at the register now.
Tim, am I allowed to ask you what double D means? Like breast size?
What do I know about it? I just know it's a bra size. I don't have any personal experience with it, Oliver.
That's one of the girls. The girls will know.
Like, what does double D mean?
He doesn't know double Ds.
It's a bigger cup size.
Okay.
Bigger cup.
I'm really worried about whether I can pull this challenge off. Those boobs to me are trouble.
They are trouble, aren't they? Hello, Phoenix. My name is Anne, and I design for development, DD. Not sure what you're expecting, so just wanted to make that clear. But true confession, actually, that used to be just like me. I too started my career in design and fashion, working in a fashion magazine. And in many ways, that experience shaped my early definition of design. I thought design was nothing but the application of style, the pursuit of an ideal form. You know, whatever I did, logo, brochure, poster, it didn't matter. There was one question I asked when I was done. Was it cool? And if it was, it passed. I'm not going to lie, for a time, and when it worked, it felt amazing. I felt like an insider, you know, purveyor of style, master of font and form. But, you know, like every trend, this too soon passed. It began to feel old. It began to feel, you know, tired. And I call this definition of design now the Spanx definition of design. Sort of narrow, constricting, shapely, but eventually will make your sides itch. So, and I had to do something about it. So I went back to school and found myself in the classroom of this man, Milton Glaser at the School of Visual Arts. If you're a design geek, you probably know him as one of the pillars of graphic design. But for maybe some of us, we know him as the designer of possibly the world's most recognizable logo, or at least the most borrowed logo. His classroom was different. He said a designer's occupation, primary occupation, was to engage with the world, and if I was lucky, to better it. Now, to engage with the world, that was a new idea, because up to that moment, I thought actually design was a tool to create distance between us, distinction, you know, from the uncool to the cool, from the fashionable, unfashionable. He also had this great quote that stayed in me. He said that if I didn't have a bedrock of understanding, I would be a victim of style. Victim of style. So I guess this stayed with me because flash forward a couple years later, I found myself saying yes to sort of an odd job offer to be an art director at a development organization. Development, I thought, what the heck was that, right? I had this vision that I would be working in some beige land, Cubeville, Warren of Cubes. This is in DC. I imagined, you know, beige people typing on their beige computers, producing beige things. But I thought, heck, I was ready for a change. And if this is what it meant to engage with the world, why not? But boy, when I got there, I was wrong. First of all, the office. One of the cooler places I've ever worked at. And yes, bonus, real art on the wall. That's a real Warhol and a Lichtenstein and a Rauschenberg right in my office. But I digress. That's the stuff of another TED Talk, so come find me later and I'll explain. Seriously, perhaps the most profound change in my practice is this shift away from the pursuit of this ideal form of design and a shift back to designing for people. It was at this time when I stopped taking myself too seriously as a designer and started to take the work more seriously. Literally, my mind was sort of this lovely hairball of things, from avian flu to fragility, empowering women, climate change, from saving the crabs and preventing crabs. I had that in my mind, right? But early on, I was keen to know that the job was a big job, especially collaborating with institutions like this. My work as a designer would be amplified. There's great potential for harm and good. And pretty soon, my portfolio, or our portfolio, began to reflect this whole spectrum of development work. And I don't do it alone. This is my team, a family of designers who believe in the power of design to make a difference. So people would ask me sometimes, so what does it mean to design for good full time? And I thought I'd share a couple lessons. So number one, we don't always have to make an impact. Now let me explain this. I'm not saying that designers should just kick back and relax. In fact, I'm saying the opposite. See, designers always love a good makeover, like many of us. So whenever we're presented with like a heinous logo, the first response is, oh my God, let me save you from yourself. Give it to me. I'll make it fabulous. Let me reinvent it. Let me make it pop. Let me jazz it up, right? I hate that phrase. But I argue that a thoughtful designer should actually step back from the Mac and actually thoughtfully discern what the right design intervention is. I'm toying with this new revised sort of design, definition of design lately. I think that to design is to be intentional. Yes, absolutely, sometimes design and style needs to be in the foreground, but sometimes I think it needs to be invisible, to be in the background. And I argue that design that does not call attention to itself is actually harder to achieve. So let me give an example. In my line of work, I encounter a good number of what we call hot mess diagrams like this, right? So what's the easy designer response here? I say, make the squares, align squares, take hateful, drop shadow, apply better font, maybe better arrows, and then I'm done, right? Styling. But I argue that a conscientious response here is actually maybe to go back to the author, and in this case, the team of authors, listen, translate, visualize, and iterate what was probably some critical information embedded in that hot mess of a diagram. Now, this is not glamorous stuff, right? But hopefully we help some governments actually navigate through sort of funding on how to fund their educational programs. This is not glamorous. And in this case, I argue that the design intervention was clarity, not jazz hands. So, second, good enough is not good enough. So this is something that I've always struggled with. I wonder, how can the same society, even the same generation that produced the iPhone, produce something as heinous and tragic as the Florida butterfly ballot? We insist on great design, on things we purchase and consume, but seem to expect nothing of the design projects that our taxes pay for. It's almost like we expect to be bored and frustrated and lulled by the stuff we see from the public sector. Why the double standard, I wondered. Some people blame research for this. They say a focus group dilutes everything, right? I'm not sure about this, actually. I believe in design, in research-informed design. Design is a dialogue. I don't think we should fear feedback nor be imprisoned by it. In fact, research saved me from committing one of the bigger blunders early in my career. I remember the assignment well. So I was in DC and I was asked to produce a suite of materials for the newly diagnosed HIV positive patients in DC. And during that year, the trendy color was this sort of like yellow-green chartreuse. Do you remember that year? And it's that like O in there. So I thought, oh, I wanted this to be current. So I used it. But through testing, we realized that up to 50% of the people we were trying to reach could not even see this color because of a condition called CMV retinitis. So without research, if I didn't listen, if I didn't seek feedback, I wouldn't get this, right? We need to get it right. We need to ask more of ourselves. Things are at stake. I want to end my talk with a pitch to all shades of designers out there, all types of creative people. If you have love and are excellent, we need you in development. We need you in the public sector. There's much good work to be done here. And if you're a decision maker, a client, someone who commissions design, expect us to deliver more than just style. Because here's the real double D. Designer plus decision maker can delight us or doom us. The choices are simple, but the stakes are high. Bad design need not govern us. Better design is part of the solution. Thank you.